You've got to be kidding me. After everything Liv Morgan did for Dominik Mysterio, after she stood by him when Rhea Ripley abandoned him, after she gave him her loyalty, her trust, and let's be honest, her entire championship reign, Dominik had the audacity to throw it all away and crawl back to the woman who left him. And you know what makes this even more infuriating? We all saw this coming, but somehow WWE still managed to make it hurt worse than we could have ever imagined. This isn't just a betrayal, folks. This is character assassination. This is WWE spitting in the face of every single fan who invested their time and emotion into the Liv and Dom storyline. And I'm about to break down exactly why this might be the most disrespectful, poorly executed, and downright insulting storyline decision WWE has made in recent memory. But before we dive into this absolute travesty, let me ask you something. Drop your answer in the comments right now because I genuinely want to know, did you actually believe Dominik would stay loyal to Liv Morgan, or were you just hoping WWE wouldn't do the predictable thing for once? Be honest with yourself and drop that answer below, because your response is going to tell us everything about how WWE has conditioned us to expect the bare minimum from their storytelling. Now, let's set the stage for what went down at SmackDown, and trust me, just recounting this is going to make your blood boil all over again. The show was already stacked, tensions were running high, and everyone knew something big was coming. Liv Morgan had been carrying Dominik on her back for months, elevating him, protecting him, and making him relevant in a way Rhea Ripley never did when they were together. Say what you want about Liv's reign as Women's World Champion, but she put Dominik in a position where people actually cared about him again. She gave him purpose beyond just being Rhea's little lapdog. But here's where it gets absolutely maddening. Throughout this entire relationship, every single fan with half a brain could see Dominik was still hung up on Rhea. The longing looks, the hesitation, the way he'd freeze up whenever Rhea's music hit, it was written all over his face. And Liv? Sweet, trusting, loyal Liv just kept believing in him. She kept defending him. She kept telling herself and everyone else that Dom had changed, that he was her dirty Dom now, that what they had was real. And WWE let us watch her be the full 4 months, building up to this inevitable heartbreak that we all knew was coming. The betrayal itself happened during what should have been Liv's moment of triumph. She was in the middle of the ring, fighting her heart out, giving everything she had, and where was Dominik? He was supposed to be in her corner, supporting her like she'd supported him countless times before. But when Rhea Ripley's music hit and she came storming down that ramp with that look of pure dominance in her eyes, everything changed. You could see it happening in slow motion. Dominik's face went from focused on Liv to completely entranced by Rhea, like a moth to a flame, like he'd never moved on at all. And here's the part that's going to make you want to punch a wall. When Liv needed him most, when she reached out for his help, when she looked at him with those eyes that were still full of trust and love despite everything, Dominik turned his back on her. Literally. He turned his back, walked away from Liv, and went straight to Rhea Ripley like the last several months meant nothing. Like Liv's loyalty meant nothing. Like the fact that she stood by him through every controversial moment, every fan backlash, every single time the WWE Universe booed him out of the building, meant absolutely nothing. But it gets worse. Oh, it gets so much worse. Because Dominik didn't just leave Liv hanging. He actively helped Rhea destroy her. He held Liv in place while Rhea delivered a devastating Riptide right in the center of that ring. He watched as the woman who loved him, who believed in him, who gave him everything, got brutalized. And you know what was on his face? Not remorse, not conflict, not even a hint of guilt, just pure, disgusting satisfaction. He stood there next to Rhea, raised her hand in victory, and celebrated while Liv Morgan lay broken and betrayed in the ring behind them. Now let me ask you another question, and I really want you to think about this one before you answer in the comments. Who got screwed worse in this whole situation? Liv Morgan, who lost her man and her dignity, or us as fans who wasted months investing in a storyline that WWE had no intention of making meaningful? Drop your answer below because this is a legitimate debate. Let's talk about what this means for Liv Morgan's character, because honestly, this might be the most frustrating part of this entire disaster. Liv has been portrayed as this strong, independent woman who doesn't need anyone, right? She won the Women's World Championship, she's been in main events, she's proven herself time and time again as a legitimate competitor. But WWE spent months making her look weak, desperate, and foolish for Dominik Mysterio. Dominik Mysterio, a guy whose biggest claim to fame is being Rhea Mysterio's son and getting constant heat for being associated with dominant women. WWE had Liv Morgan, a former champion and one of the most over women on the roster, simping for a man who was clearly still in love with someone else. They had her defending him, protecting him, making excuses for him, and looking completely pathetic in the process. And for what? So they could do the most predictable storyline possible and have him run back to Rhea? So they could make Liv look like a complete fool in front of millions of people? This isn't character development, folks. This is character destruction. This is taking a woman who should be presented as a strong, resilient fighter and reducing her to nothing more than a plot device in someone else's love story. And before anyone comes at me in the comments saying it's just a storyline or it's setting up Liv's revenge arc, let me stop you right there. Yes, it's a storyline. But it's a bad storyline. It's a storyline that makes everyone involved look worse than they did before. Dominik looks like an even more spineless coward than he already was. Liv looks naive and desperate. And Rhea? Well, Rhea comes out looking like the only one with any sense, which is exactly what WWE wanted, but at what cost? Here's another question for the comments, and this one's going to be controversial. Is Rhea Ripley actually the villain in this story, or is she just taking back what was always hers? Think about it, really think about it, and let me know your honest opinion below. Now let's talk about Rhea Ripley's return and what this reunion with Dominik means for her. Rhea has been gone dealing with an injury, working her way back to the ring, and building anticipation for her return. The WWE Universe has been hungry for Mami to come back. And what does WWE do? They bring her back and immediately throw her right back into the same dynamic she was in before she left, except now it's supposed to be fresh because there's the Liv Morgan drama in the middle. But here's the thing that nobody wants to admit: Rhea doesn't need Dominik. She never did. Rhea Ripley is one of the most dominant, charismatic, and talented performers in WWE today. She's a main event caliber star who can carry any storyline on her own. She doesn't need a whiny, cowardly boyfriend following her around to be relevant. If anything, Dominik drags her down. He makes her look weaker because now instead of being this unstoppable force of nature, she's the woman who takes back a man who left her for someone else. Where's the self-respect in that? Where's the dominance? WWE had the perfect opportunity to have Rhea come back as a solo star, focused solely on reclaiming her championship and destroying everyone in her path. Instead, they went with the easy, lazy option of reuniting her with Dominik because they know it'll get a reaction. And sure, it's getting a reaction, but is it the right reaction? Are we talking about how great Rhea looks and how exciting her return is, or are we talking about how stupid this whole love triangle storyline has been? Exactly. Let me ask you this, and I want a flood of answers in the comments. Would you rather see Rhea Ripley as a solo dominant champion, or do you think she's better with Dominik by her side? This is important because it tells us what kind of women's wrestling we want to see in WWE. But let's get back to Dominik for a second, because we need to talk about what this betrayal says about his character, and spoiler alert, it's not good. Dominik Mysterio has been positioned as one of the top heels in WWE, and yeah, he gets heat, nobody can deny that. But there's a difference between being a heel people love to hate and being a heel people just hate. And right now, Dominik is firmly in the latter category. The problem with Dominik's character is that he's never been portrayed as having any real agency or backbone. Everything he does is in service to whatever woman is currently controlling his life. When he was with Rhea, he was Rhea's puppet. When he was with Liv, he was Liv's puppet. And now that he's back with Rhea, guess what? He's Rhea's puppet again. There's no growth, no development, no arc. He's just a prop that gets passed around between women's storylines. And that's not interesting. That's not compelling. That's just lazy writing. And here's what really grinds my gears about this whole thing. WWE had the chance to do something different. They could have had Dominik stand up for himself, choose neither woman, and forge his own path as a singles competitor who doesn't need to be attached to anyone's hip. They could have had him actually grow as a character and show some maturity and independence. But no, they went with the safest, most predictable route possible, and Dominik remains exactly what he's always been, a coward with no spine who can't function without a strong woman telling him what to do. The betrayal of Liv Morgan doesn't make Dominik look strong or decisive or interesting. It makes him look weak, disloyal, and pathetic. It makes him look like a man who can't stand on his own 2 feet and needs to run back to the person who makes him feel safe, even if it means destroying someone who genuinely cared about him. That's not heel work, that's just being a terrible person with no redeeming qualities whatsoever. Drop a comment right now and tell me, can you name one thing Dominik Mysterio has accomplished on his own without riding someone else's coattails? I'll wait, because I genuinely can't think of anything significant. Let's talk about the actual execution of this betrayal at SmackDown, because the way WWE did this matters just as much as the fact that they did it. The setup was there, we all knew something was going to happen, but WWE somehow still managed to fumble the emotional weight of the moment. Instead of it being this gut-wrenching, heartbreaking scene that makes you feel something real, it felt rushed, forced, and frankly, insulting to everyone's intelligence. Liv's reaction should have been the centerpiece of this entire segment. Her pain, her shock, her realization that everything she believed was a lie. That should have been what we focused on. Instead, the cameras immediately cut to Dominik and Rhea celebrating like they'd just won the lottery, completely overshadowing what should have been Liv's moment to shine as a performer. Even in her most vulnerable moment, WWE couldn't give Liv Morgan the spotlight she deserved. They had to make sure we knew that Rhea and Dominik were back together, and that was all that mattered. And the crowd reaction? Mixed at best. Sure, there were boos for Dominik, but there was also this sense of, well, obviously, that permeated the entire arena. Nobody was shocked. Nobody was devastated. We were all just watching the inevitable play out exactly as we predicted it would months ago. There was no surprise, no twist, no subversion of expectations. It was paint-by-numbers storytelling at its most basic level, and frankly, the WWE Universe deserves better than that. Here's a question I need you to answer honestly in the comments. When was the last time WWE actually surprised you with a storyline twist that you didn't see coming from a mile away? Think about it and drop your answer below. Now, let's discuss what happens next, because this is where WWE either redeems this disaster or makes it even worse. The obvious route is a revenge storyline where Liv Morgan comes back stronger than ever, gets her revenge on both Dominik and Rhea, and proves that she doesn't need anyone. That's the storyline we're supposed to get, and if WWE does it right, it could actually salvage some of this mess. But here's my concern: WWE has a terrible track record of following through on women's revenge storylines in a meaningful way. How many times have we seen a woman get betrayed, humiliated, or screwed over, only for WWE to either drop the storyline completely or give us some lukewarm revenge that doesn't actually feel satisfying? Too many times to count. So forgive me if I'm not holding my breath waiting for Liv Morgan to get the epic revenge arc she deserves. Based on WWE's history, they are more likely to have her feud with Rhea for a couple of weeks, lose the big match, and then move on to something else while we all wonder what the point of any of this was. And what about Dominik and Rhea as a couple moving forward? Are we supposed to cheer for them now? Are we supposed to forget that Dominik is a spineless betrayer who abandoned someone at their lowest point? Are we supposed to root for Rhea taking back a man who proved he's willing to leave the second things get tough? The whole dynamic is tainted now, and not in a good heel way. It's tainted in a way that makes it hard to invest in anything these characters do because we know they have no loyalty, no honor, and no real character depth beyond whatever the writers need them to be in any given moment. Comment below and tell me, what would you book as Liv Morgan's revenge? Give me your fantasy booking because I guarantee it's better than whatever WWE has planned. Let's talk about the bigger picture for a second, because this storyline is symptomatic of a larger problem in WWE: the inability to commit to long-term storytelling that actually pays off in a meaningful way. WWE has gotten so focused on short-term pops and social media moments that they've forgotten how to build to something that feels important and earned. This Dominik betrayal should have been the culmination of months of careful character development, subtle hints, and emotional build-up. Instead, it feels like WWE just decided one week that it was time for Dom to go back to Rhea, and they did it in the most straightforward way possible. There was no nuance, no complexity, no real exploration of why Dominik would make this choice or what it means for him as a character. He just did it because the script said so, and we're all supposed to accept it and move on. That's not storytelling, that's just plot mechanics. That's checking boxes on a list rather than crafting a narrative that resonates with people on an emotional level. And this is what frustrates me most about modern WWE. They have all the talent in the world, they have performers who are capable of delivering incredible emotional moments, and they have a fanbase that is willing to invest in good storytelling. But time and time again, they choose the easy route, the predictable route, the route that requires the least amount of thought and effort, and we all suffer for it. Here's another question for you, and this one might hurt a little. Do you think WWE actually respects its audience's intelligence, or do they think we'll cheer for anything as long as there's a big spectacle? Drop your honest opinion in the comments. Let's also address the elephant in the room. The gender dynamics in this storyline are extremely problematic when you really think about it. We have two women fighting over a man who isn't worth fighting over. We have a woman being portrayed as weak and foolish for believing in love. We have another woman being portrayed as winning by taking back a man who betrayed her. None of this is empowering, none of this is progressive, and none of this is the kind of women's storytelling that WWE claims to champion. WWE loves to pat themselves on the back for the women's revolution and how far women's wrestling has come in their company. But then they do storylines like this that reduce talented female performers to nothing more than love interests fighting over a man. Liv Morgan should be in the title picture. Rhea Ripley should be in the title picture. They should be feuding over championships, over legacy, over who's the better wrestler. Instead, they are feuding over Dominik Mysterio, and that's not progress, that's regression. If WWE really respected their women's division, they would give these women storylines that don't revolve around men. They would let them be fully realized characters with motivations beyond romance. They would let them main event shows and have feuds that are taken just as seriously as the men's feuds. But as long as they keep booking garbage like this love triangle, we're never going to get there. Tell me in the comments, what women's feud would you rather see instead of this love triangle nonsense? Give me your dream women's storyline that has nothing to do with fighting over a man. Now, I want to talk about what this means for the future of all three performers involved, because the ramifications of this storyline are going to last long after this segment is forgotten. For Liv Morgan, this is either going to be the moment that defines her as a resilient survivor who comes back stronger, or it's going to be remembered as the time WWE made her look foolish and she never recovered from it. Everything depends on what happens next, and frankly, I don't have a lot of faith in WWE to do right by her. For Rhea Ripley, this reunion with Dominik might satisfy some fans who miss seeing them together, but it also puts her right back in a box that she doesn't need to be in. Rhea is capable of so much more than being one half of a couple, and the longer WWE keeps her tied to Dominik's storylines, the longer we have to wait to see her reach her full potential as a solo star. She should be the final boss of the women's division, not someone's girlfriend who happens to also be really good at wrestling. And for Dominik, honestly, I don't know if he ever recovers from this character-wise. He's now betrayed his father, he's betrayed Liv Morgan, and he's proven that he has no loyalty to anyone except whoever makes him feel powerful at any given moment. What's his arc from here? Where does he go? How does he grow as a character when all he does is repeat the same patterns over and over? Unless WWE does something drastically different with him moving forward, Dominik is going to be stuck in this loop forever, and that's not interesting television. Give me your prediction in the comments. Where do you see Dominik Mysterio's character in 1 year? Be specific, because I want to know if you think WWE can actually do something meaningful with him or if he's doomed to repeat this cycle forever. Let's talk about the fan reaction to all of this, because it's been fascinating to watch the WWE universe process this betrayal. On one hand, you have fans who are defending the storyline, saying it makes sense for Dominik's character and that we all knew this was coming so we shouldn't be surprised. On the other hand, you have fans who are absolutely furious, feeling like their time and emotional investment was wasted on a predictable conclusion that didn't deliver anything new or interesting. And you know what? Both groups are right. Yes, the betrayal makes sense for Dominik's character based on everything we've seen, but that's exactly the problem. It's too predictable, too safe, too formulaic. Wrestling is at its best when it subverts our expectations while still making sense within the context of the story. This didn't subvert anything. It just confirmed what we all already knew, and that's not good enough. The fans who are angry have every right to be, because WWE essentially told them we know you know what's coming, and we're going to do it anyway because we don't care about surprising you or making you feel something genuine. That's insulting. That's treating your audience like they are just going to consume whatever you put in front of them without questioning it. And maybe some fans will, but the passionate ones, the ones who actually care about the quality of the product, are going to call WWE out on their lazy storytelling. Answer this in the comments. Are you more likely to keep watching a storyline that's predictable but executed well, or would you rather WWE take risks with unpredictable storylines even if they might not always work? This is a crucial question. Here's what really bothers me about this whole situation. WWE has proven time and time again that they can do better. They have the talent, they have the creative minds, they have the resources. We've seen them deliver incredible storylines that have us on the edge of our seats, that make us laugh and cry and scream at our televisions. The Roman Reigns bloodline saga, the Kofi Kingston WWE Championship journey, Becky Lynch's rise to becoming the man, these are examples of WWE storytelling at its finest. So why do they keep giving us garbage like this love triangle? Why do they keep taking the easy way out? Why do they keep underestimating what the audience wants and what the performers deserve? It's because somewhere along the line, WWE decided that just being good enough was sufficient. They don't need to be great because people are going to watch anyway. They don't need to push boundaries because the safe route gets a reaction too. But here's what they are missing: that attitude is how you lose your most passionate fans. That's how you create apathy. That's how you end up with an audience that just doesn't care anymore because they know they are not going to get anything meaningful. Wrestling fans are some of the most loyal, passionate, dedicated fans in all of entertainment. But even loyalty has limits, and WWE is testing those limits every time they deliver a storyline like this one. Final question before we wrap this up, and I want everyone watching to answer this in the comments. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate this Dominik Betrayal storyline, and what's the one thing WWE could do to fix it going forward? Be honest, be specific, and let's fill this comment section with our real thoughts. Look, at the end of the day, wrestling is supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be an escape, a source of entertainment that makes us feel something. And yeah, sometimes that feeling is anger or frustration, and that can be part of the experience when it's done intentionally and with purpose. But this storyline doesn't feel like intentional heat, it feels like incompetence. It feels like WWE dropped the ball on something that could have been special and instead gave us the most basic, predictable outcome possible. Liv Morgan deserved better than to be made the fool in someone else's love story. Rhea Ripley deserved better than to be brought back just to be part of the same dynamic she was in before. Dominik Mysterio deserved better than to be written as a spineless coward with no character growth. And we, as fans, deserved better than to waste months investing in a storyline that was always going to end exactly the way we thought it would. But here's the thing, it's not too late for WWE to fix this. They can still give us the Liv Morgan revenge arc we're desperate to see. They can still give Rhea a storyline that showcases her as the dominant force she is without tying her to Dominik. They can still do something interesting with Dominik's character that makes him more than just a puppet. The potential is there, the pieces are in place, they just need to actually commit to doing something meaningful with them. So WWE, if you're listening, and I know you're not but I'll say it anyway, please learn from this. Please understand that your audience is smarter than you give them credit for. Please respect the performers who work their asses off to make your stories come to life. Please give us wrestling that makes us believe again, that makes us invest again, that makes us care again. Because right now, after watching Dominik Mysterio betray Liv Morgan in the most predictable way possible, a lot of us are questioning why we should care at all. Before you go, make sure you drop those answers to all the questions I asked throughout this video in the comments below. I want to hear what you think about this storyline, where you think it's going, and what you would do differently if you were in charge. Hit that like button if you're as frustrated as I am about this whole situation, and if you haven't already, subscribe to Wrestling Zone 1 because we're going to keep covering all the biggest stories in wrestling, even when those stories make us want to scream. Share this video with every wrestling fan you know who's tired of predictable, lazy storytelling. Share it with anyone who's invested in Liv Morgan and wants to see her get the justice she deserves. Share it with people who miss the days when WWE actually took risks and delivered storylines that meant something. The more people who see this and speak up about what they want from wrestling, the better chance we have of actually getting it. This has been Wrestling Zone 1, and remember, just because wrestling is predetermined doesn't mean it has to be predictable. WWE needs to do better, and they need to do it now, because the WWE universe is tired of settling for mediocrity when we know they're capable of greatness. Now get down in those comments and let your voice be heard, because if enough of us demand better, maybe, just maybe, WWE will finally listen. And one more thing before I let you go, if you were Liv Morgan right now, what would be the first thing you'd do to get your revenge? Would you go after Dominik first, Rhea first, or would you take them both down together? Think about it, visualize it, and spell it out in the comments because I'm genuinely curious to see what the collective genius of the Wrestling Zone 1 community comes up with. Trust me, whatever you come up with is going to be better than what we're probably going to get. Until next time, keep watching, keep critiquing, and never settle for wrestling that doesn't live up to the standard we all know it can reach. Peace.